10:02. So being Swiss, I'm not very good on times, but Swiss are very punctual. Our trains are on time, people are on time. And so we respect the people that arrive on time rather than wait for those that come late. So today we're going to be talking about the last letter in the driver's seat. I should actually come back to the beginning and remind us what the driver's seat is all about. So driver was already an anagram. We'll talk about this a little bit in a second about anagrams and how we present things. The state was your body state. How are you standing? How are you holding yourself? How are you projecting your voice and using that toolbox? The second one was expressions, rhetoric. When we repeat a phrase at the beginning, when we repeat a phrase at the end, when we repeat a phrase again and again and again, and the rule of 3 is always used, people will remember it. You will have more power in the way you express yourself. We talked of metaphors, and we also talked of exaggeration and authenticity, being authentic. Week 2 was all about, oh no, sorry, we've just done week 2. Week 3 was about how do we advise people. So we went a little bit into the psychology of how people want to understand. They have a problem, they're unhappy, and you're taking them to a solution. You're making them happy. And by that presentation, by the solution, by the way that you're showing, they believe that you're authentic to be able to help them. So how do you advise them in the way? So is it a pitching a presentation for your company? My project or my company solves this problem because we discovered, and so our project has this solution and we've got some extra cool features and you need to invest or you need to buy. The same when you're selling a product. What is your problem? You have this problem. We're here to be able to help you to solve that problem by doing A, B, and C. Or buy this, buy these shoes, because with these shoes, you'll run quicker and you'll be the first to the bus stop and you won't be late. I had my daughter who wanted a pair of shoes and she's like, Mother, you got to buy me these trainers because if I buy these trainers, I will always be on time. I will never miss the bus. And I'm like, how can you tell me that? And she's like, yeah, because I'm going to run quicker. And because I'm going to run quicker, I'm never going to miss the train or the bus. So she gave me an argumentation, which maybe it wasn't the right one, but it certainly convinced me that maybe I should buy her those shoes. All right. So after we've advised people of how we're going to help them, there is the actual way of transmitting a message. Now, we've actually talked through the whole 4 sessions, the whole 3 sessions, and today more about how you transmit your message with your body stance, with the way you project your voice. All these are ways of transmitting, but let's put it all together now. Okay. So I'm going to go through 3 points. So I need to find the right page. All right. 3 points today. I'm going to talk about how you create that impact. How do you make your presentation memorable so that people really want to remember and will retain what you've said to them? The second point is I'll take you through a few tricks of PowerPoint, see how you can improve your presentation slides and try to avoid that death where people fall asleep in a presentation. And a best way or a very ingenious way to make a presentation for service products is using a framework. Where am I here? So did you know that actually 90% of what you say is forgotten in 30 seconds? People don't always have a working memory. They don't retain things very quickly. So if you put in a lot of information, what are they going to remember? It's not always easy for them to retain. And if you're bombarding with information, what you've said before hasn't actually sunk in. And that's why we talked about in the first week, it was pauses, repetition, because it allows you to remember, it allows people to get it to sink in, to think about it. Oh yeah, well, that's good. And if you repeat it, I'm terrible with names. I'm not very good with names. and I will recognize somebody, but I don't always remember their name. So when I meet them for the first time, I say, hello, Amanda. Nice to meet you, Amanda. I can call you Amanda. What's your surname? Amanda Smith. Well, it was really nice to know you, Amanda. So it's Amanda, isn't it? That's right. I'm sorry. But I keep trying to repeat it so the image fits in with the name. Because sometimes I remember images and people, but I can't remember their name. And guess what? I tell them. I say to them, I know we met before, but I'm terrible with names. Remind me of your name. And they laugh, but I'm natural. So, it's nothing wrong with forgetting names. It's just it doesn't work like that in my brain. So 90% of what you say is gone in 30 seconds. Now, can I give you an example? You might say, no, that's not true. Well, how many of you have got your ticket for your train and you're going to the station, you pull out your ticket and you say, oh yeah, it's wagon 5 and seat 65. Okay, put it in your pocket and you're carrying your bags and your stuff and suddenly, hold on, which wagon is it? Hold on. And you pull it out and you look. And by the time you get to the seat, you might have pulled out and looked at your ticket 5 times. And you see this. You see this when you're sitting in the train, if you're early and you see people arriving, they arrive at their seat, they're like, yes, I found my seat, it's 65. And they're like, yes, I found it. They're so happy, but they couldn't remember it. And they've come 4, 5 times pulling out the ticket to have a look. So our immediate memory, 90% goes. So that means that for anybody to retain what you're giving them, you've got to slow down in the way, and you've got to make sure that it's interesting. So how do we, and that word is cognitively and psychologically, optimize our presentation so that people will remember them? So yes, support, as in physical support and visuals, is very important. They say that, 1,000 words, a picture can describe 1,000 words. And actually 65% of the population are visual. And I've had somebody say to me, Helen, I want some paper, I want some support of what you're saying. And I believe that, yes, I should be doing more, a mix between both. Somebody else has asked me to chunk it down, and I'll explain the word chunk later, into smaller bite pieces rather than a 1-hour video, perhaps 2, 3, or 4 smaller, so that you can retain them and not spend so much time trying to remember. So that's also something I've learned during this course. So PowerPoint or presentation styles is important because it's going to back up what you're saying. But remember, you are the presenter, not the slides. The slides is a visual support to what you are saying. So don't use the slides to take the presentation away from who you are and what you're presenting. So how do we create that impact to be memorable? Well, we're going to come back. I'm going to repeat some things, but you need to know who is your audience. So I'm going to talk of 7 points. 7 points is 1, know your audience, because you can't have the same language if you're speaking to CEOs of a company, or if you're speaking to the workers, or if you're speaking to a marketing team, or if you're speaking to a sales team. Each team has different requirements and a different language. So you need to adapt your content to the people that are in front of you. Now, somebody said to me, I've got men and women, and men have a different opinion or a different way of seeing things than women. Men like more the technical side, more on the facts, and the women are more on the emotion. Yes, but I would say let's be careful. Let's not go down those biased judgments, because today women can be just as desirable for technical things and they want to know the figures, and there can be men or others, because we now have the LGBT community, and I'm delighted to have everybody, and they have that feminine side where emotions are more important for them. So let's not go down the biased judgments of, oh, I'm speaking to men, so I have to have this way of speaking, and I'm speaking to women, and I have to be yourself and be authentic. So yes, you can give the technical side. You can make a joke saying, right, I'm going to, for those techies who are really interested, the figures is this, the graph is that, the engine is this. If we're talking about a car, for example, we could be talking about more the technical side. The motor has got so many horsepower, and when you put your foot down, so many seconds we're going to get to. But then you can say, for those that are looking for that wonderful, lush environment, you've got the smell of leather, you've got the nice clunk of the door, you can give other aspects. But don't put it into men or women, because today we don't know, and we need to be open in the way we speak. But you definitely need to know who is your audience. You won't have the same discussion, you won't have the same content if you're speaking to different people. And it's important. If you're speaking to children, you need to vulgarize your context and your words. You need to bring things down to something that's simple. You need to give examples that speak to them. If you're speaking to CEOs, you need to talk of a context that's more professional. Perhaps you're talking of more in a business environment. But it is important that your language is adapted to the audience, and remembering that we always try to make it more simpler for people to remember. So the first one is know your audience and adapt your content. The second one is use structure to build your presentation. So you can't have your ideas left, right, and center. You need to give some structure on how you're going to be presenting. And you need that structure that's going to help you take that flow from A to B to C. Move it along. You can use. And usually when I start my presentation, I draw boxes and I say, right, I want to go through this theme and this theme and this theme. And then I try to chunk it down. We're going to talk about that in a moment. So build up a logical flow in the way you are presenting. Charts and visuals are important. Yes, 65% of the population are visual. They like to see things visually. So a picture, as I said, is worth 1,000 words. Repetition is your friend. Now, when I say repetition in what you're saying and what is the message. If at the end of your message, your call to action is buy, do, make sure you take them through the process. So sometimes what's interesting in the repetition is, first of all, you outline, like I've done here. We're going to do 3 points. Then you're going to go into the body. So I'm now, at the moment, I'm talking about how to make it impactful. And at the end, come back to resume what you've said. So it reminds people what you've taken them through. And then they can say, did I get the 7 points? Yes or no? So repetition is very important. 5, truthful storytelling. I said that, and I've said that yet last week, and I've said it during the whole 4 weeks. You've got to be truthful in how you're presenting. You've got to be your authentic self. Be relatable. So 5 is truthful storytelling. 6 is being relatable, your authentic self. And 7 is practice. Practice, practice, because the more you practice, the more comfortable you feel in what you're saying, and the more comfortable you feel, it will give you that confidence. So you repeat, you repeat, and you repeat. And I recommend you to record on your phone. We have all the possibility with our phones today is to record what you want to say, and then listen to yourself. And as you're listening, you'll say, oh, I missed that. I need to say this. I'm going too quickly there. Listen back and start again, and start again, and start again. And those recordings, you just throw them away. Don't keep them. Maybe you want to keep your first video so that you can laugh and say, this was me 5 years ago, and this is me today. I haven't been very active on YouTube, and I put a couple of videos. I even shared one on this Facebook group on how to put your lighting. And I can see from 2 years ago today how I'm more comfortable I feel in front of the camera. So practice, practice, practice. So those are the 7 points, and I haven't written them down. So 1, know your audience. 2, use structure to build your presentation. 3, use visuals and charts and certain images. And I can give you an anecdote for 3, but I'll come back to that. 4, repetition is your friend. 5, truthful storytelling. 6, be relatable, be authentic, be yourself. And 7, practice, practice, practice. So somebody who said to me, oh, I'm so nervous. Well, guess what? Your nervous scale is not seen in the same way. So if I'm like 7 or 8 in nervous, you might only see me at level 2 or 3. You might say, oh, she's looking good. So no, don't think that how you feel is how people see you. And in fact, the hormone that's brought out from nervousness, the adrenaline, is the same hormone as excitement. And soon with your practice and the way you've practiced, you start to get excited that you're sharing all of this rather than nervous. Yes, I'm getting it through. I'm telling you what I've prepared and I've spent time preparing it. And now here it is for you guys. So I'm enjoying that and enjoy the excitement rather than saying, oh my God, I'm nervous, I'm nervous. The more you say you're nervous, the more you will feel it. So let's stay in, I'm excited, I'm enjoying this, I'm having fun. Okay, so now we're going to come to the tricks of PowerPoint. I'm going to show you 5 tricks, okay? And I'm going to actually, hello, Diane. I'm going to show you 5 tricks and we're going to talk on, I'm actually going to show you, I'm going to be able to share my screen and show you some of the tricks one by one. So the first thing is 1 message per slide. Don't bombard people with loads and loads of stuff on a slide, because there's nothing worse of sitting in front of a presentation and there's so much junk on there and the person's going on and on and on. It's not exciting. So 1 message per slide. And so now I'm going to share a few PowerPoint slides that I want to show you. So now where do I go? Where's my mouse? Here it is. Share the screen. Okay, and I want to share this one. Okay, can you see my screen? All right. So on this screen, these were the 7 points that I talked a moment ago. Was know your audience, structure to build. Now I've put a very simple screen that's black, dark, with the white text, and I'll come to that in a moment. So here is an example of, I'm going to put it on here. Let's see, is this now working like that? And what's the next one? Here's the next one. So 1 slide per message. This has a lot of impact. There's just 1 slide, 1 message. So it should be actually 1 message per slide and not 1 slide per message. Oh, you see, I've made a mistake. Doesn't matter. I'm human. I did this last night. So it's 1 message per slide and not 1 slide per message. So here's an example of cars. And this is an idea I wanted to show you about chunking, because we're going to talk about what is chunking. So if my presentation is about cars, BMW, Mercedes, Volvo, steering wheel. Steering wheel is not the same level as a car. It's a piece of a car. So make sure that when you're bringing down your aspect of projects, you bring it down to just something very simple. So you make sure that your chunking is always of the same level. You're talking of cars, so it shouldn't be steering wheel. Steering wheel is a part of a car. So this is the first thing. The second point is about redundancy. Now, I can imagine that you're not even listening to me. The redundancy effect is, in fact, when there's too much text on a slide and people are reading what I have to say and not remembering what I'm saying. So too much text gives this redundancy effect. Don't put too much text. I'm not going to say let's go to bullet points because I'm going to share a different point there afterwards. But remember that if you put too much text, nobody's reading what we're saying. So you've got to, they're reading and they're not listening, and people get lost. Oh, she's saying that, and they're trying to understand the text, and there's this drone of a voice going on in the background. That's not good. So never use too much text on a slide. the size of the title. Now, this is, for me, one of the biggest problems of PowerPoint is it always puts the title bigger than the text underneath. But what do we want people to retain? Do we want them to retain the list of items, or do we want them to retain the actual items that are important? So in fact, we shouldn't have a big title and small points. We should be inversing this situation and doing it like this. The size of the title becomes smaller, and I'm going to use the trick of contrast and of titles. So here we go. What is important? And did you see that it now goes darker? So I do 0.1, I do 0.3, but what is happening with your eyes? You are following what's going on the screen. Now this is quite easy to do, and I'm going to come out of this mode, and you should be able to still see are you still watching my screen? When you're on this, you're going to select your text and you're going to go to animations. And here you're going to select, for example, what is important. Now, what I like to do is I put my animation panel on the right. I'm going to select each text. So you see there's a little arrow here on the right. Can you see this? I'm not sure if you can. And it says here, effect options. So you select the options and you say, after the animation, you're going to dim it or you're not going to dim it. So you could even hide it after the animation. I put it into a dark color so that you can still see it. And you do this one by one. You can see one, and it keeps giving the different points and the timing. And you can say, I want one to come after the other. So the animation makes it that people are actually following your speaking, your points as you go along. And the contrast is very important. If we come to the next slide, this is painful. So I put it on a, where's the next one? Oops, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when I show the next one, yes, you can read contrast, but the screen is so white and so strong that you're not looking at me. Imagine that I'm standing on a stage and you've got this screen up behind me. You're looking at the white and you're not looking at myself. So in fact, contrast is really important in a presentation. And if you bring it down, the eyes feel a lot more comfortable and they can read what's going on, but they're not blasted by that white light. PowerPoint should not have white backgrounds. You only use white backgrounds for yourself and if you need to print something or to give text. And don't think that because you prepare a PowerPoint with dark images, with dark contrasts on the background, that is the presentation that you give to your audience. If they need an information, make it into a Word document and just use the text on white. But don't blast them with a PowerPoint that's got a dark contrast, because if they print it out, they're going to find themselves using all the ink on their machines. It's not good for the planet, and it's definitely not good for their printer ink cartridges, which cost a fortune. So contrast brings out the focus of where you want people to look at. So one message per slide, not too much text, the size of the headline and the size of the text within the body, contrast, and then only 6 objects per page. So our last one is 6 objects per slide. Now, what I'm going to do is, here I've done something very basic. I've put a title and then I've put my 6 points. I've got 5 points. I've lost one. 2 long sentences, contrast to focus, size of text, redundancy. No, it's 5 tricks. It's 5 tricks, but 6 objects. Okay, so 6 objects maximum per slide. Now, how can we present these 6 objects so that they will be remembered? If we leave them like this, I'm not sure if we really remember. So there are many tricks in PowerPoint to be able to present this in another way. So I just clicked a button and suddenly the PowerPoint presentation is putting the 5 points on a horizontal, which is a lot more visual and allows people to remember easier the 5 points. Now, this is very simple. Have I got another example? No, if I come out of this and I show you how you do this, you click on your elements and you're going to, so if I come back to the old one, where are we? I come back to this one and suddenly I say, right, I'd like to change this. So I'll go home and I'm going to say, I want to change this message, go to design. I'm going to ask the designer to make me some proposals, you see? And here on the right, very simply, it's giving me some proposals. I can do this, I could do that. Just with a click of the button, I'm going to something that has more impact than just a list. And this is very important to be able to make sure that your presentation is more fun rather than just showing things on a list. So if I come back to this, that is very simple, and I want to change it. I'm going to go and ask for design, and I can even make it into a pie. Where's my designer? It's gone. It's generating some ideas here. So it generates loads of ideas. You can put arrows, you can put boxes, and you choose the one you like with a simple click of the button. But it certainly makes your presentation a lot more dynamic if you've got the words on a horizontal basis rather than a vertical. Because on the vertical, your eyes are going down. And so on the horizontal, it keeps you more engaged. So we need to avoid that idea of bringing our eyes down. And that's why putting them on a horizontal is fun. One of the things that I would recommend you to avoid, let me come out of this for the time being. Stop sharing. Where's my mouse is very small. Okay, I'm back. So avoid putting the number of pages of your slides, because it could be a horror for somebody if they see 5 out of 105. I think, oh my God, there's another 100 to listen to. It could give some hope if they're at 90 out of 95. But honestly, you don't need to put the number of slides, because you might find that you're running out of time. You might find that you need to go quicker. So don't put those numbers, because if it's a boring presentation and my daughter says to me, look, Mom, I've got 250 slides to listen to in 3 hours. She's like, am I going to go to this conference? So don't frighten people with putting the number of slides. Okay, so we've talked about making your presentation memorable, making it impactful with the way you talk, with the way you put stress, with repetition. We keep repeating. Use the tools of PowerPoint. I like PowerPoint. I was PowerPoint queen during my MBA. I had a girlfriend who took some diskettes and she painted them with gold paint. It shows you how ancient I am. And she gave them out, and I was the PowerPoint queen. PowerPoint is fabulous. There's great opportunities, but don't do it at the last minute, because you need to understand, you need to play, you need to see if it's coming, if it's working, if it's coming out, the colors. Are the number of seconds good for the way you are making your presentation? Sometimes the animations are too quick and you want them to go slower. So it takes a bit of time, need to practice. And remember, your PowerPoint presentation is the support for who you are talking. It's not everybody's looking at your screen, they're looking at you, and you have a support. I'm not sure if I shared this, but I certainly remember 25 years ago, a company came to present this new airline company, and they gave me their slides to put on, and it was just one slide and it was all orange. Can we imagine which airline company it was they were presenting? It was EasyJet. And his only thing in his presentation was a big orange slide in the background. Why? Because at the time he said, I'm going to paint all my planes in orange. And that was like, orange? Wow. Today, we're all used to seeing EasyJet and the orange planes around, but it was really impactful at the time, 25 years ago when they launched. All the airplanes were a lot more classical. And for him, his presentation was just about orange. He didn't talk about being cheaper or being this or being that. He just presented orange. And I still remember that presentation today. So less is more. even in the way. When I did my TEDx, I used 4 or 5 slides. I practiced and practiced and practiced, and I still forgot half of it. But I just used certain images to depaint or to give the feeling that I wanted to do in my presentation. There was no text, there was no points. It was just an image of a situation to get the mood right with the people that I was talking to. So the last point that I'm going to be talking about is, how do you sell a service compared to a product? When we're actually selling, I don't know, a cup or a telephone, it's very simple. We can talk about its features. We can talk about the color, the shape, the feel, the metal. Apple are very good at explaining or making us fall in love with their phones. It's very easy when you have a tangible product. When you're selling a service, there's nothing to show for it. You're selling a solution. You're solving somebody's problems. How can we make that visual so that we can show people that our product is actually, we're selling them a promise, we're selling them something. We've worked down hard our years of experience to show what we're doing. So how do we show something that's invisible? And that's where we come to the idea of frameworks. We came to the idea of creating something to show that there's a process. And what we do is we actually we use the word chunk to chunk down the story. So we take them over a certain number of steps. So this word chunking, you will hear in presentations, people will talk about, oh, I've chunked it down. If we look at what I did today, or what I did in this course of the driver, the speaker's vehicle, I chunked it down into 4 sections: the driver's seat, with the state, the expression, the advice, and today, how to transmit. It gives an idea of people to understand a process that I'm taking them on. So I've done, again, a couple of examples of showing you how we can chunk down a presentation to make it more interesting and to have a lot more impact. So I'm going to, again, share my screen. This, there. And I'm going to come to slideshow from the current slide. So if I come to making a framework, the idea is that we chunk down a framework. And what I've done is, what are the skills needed to solve the big problem? So I've taken the example of a business presentation. What are the skills that we need to solve a big problem, which is business presentation? So the first thing we might need is, we might need presentation skills. We might need storytelling. You see, it's gone a bit fast. I wanted it to go slower. We might need content creation, and we might need to pitch for a business presentation. So we need presentation skills. We need to know how to storytell. We need to, how do we create the content? How do we make it interesting and sexy? And then how do we pitch it? How do we get it across to our people? So this is how we've chunked it down into 4 sub solutions: 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, the way I present might be different to this solution. However, when I say, oh, business presentation is part of 4 aspects: presentation skills, storytelling, content creation, and pitching. And if you want to be a little bit more sophisticated, you could actually try to play with alliteration and use 1 single letter. So is this going to work? Yes, I'm going to go for impact. So rather than storytelling, I'm going for influence. Rather than content creation, I'm going for information. And in pitching, well, it's about income, about getting the money in. And so here we have the business presentation solution. How do I solve it? With the 4 I's: with impact, with influence, with information, and income. And suddenly, your audience understands what you're going to give them as a solution. That story, that bridge. We talked about what is your hook, your story, and your call to action. My hook is I'm going to help you with presentation skills. My story is I'm going to take you through the 4 I's. And this is the example that I'm using here, the 4 I's, to get you to know how to make a business presentation so that you can earn income. If I take this process to what I did for the driver, the distinctive speaker's vehicle, when I did my advertising for this course, I talked about driver as deliver the perfect message, reach the heart of your audience, I to illustrate your authority, V, use the toolbox, your voice, empower with your experience, and radiate your energy and shine. That was the promise that I said about the driver speaker vehicle. And that's how I went out trying to explain what I was going to do as a course. I didn't do it in that order. I actually played and did the whole game around the driver's seat. And so we have here a driver's seat where there's the state, the expression, the advice, and transmit. Now here we have things on a vertical seat. We have the seat vertically, and I've taken a picture of a drive. I'm not sure if I've got another one. No. So what I want to do is I want to come out of this and show you how you can play on this last visual. So I'm going to connect and take this here, and I want to go to design again. And when I go to design, I ask for the designer here, and I say, well, I don't want on a vertical, I'd like to put it horizontal. And you see if I just click, suddenly it's doing it for me. Are you seeing this? I'm not sure. I think so. Here it's on a different, it takes my color codes of my slides, and you see more designs. You can ask more designs and it can just keep doing it. Here's another one with the car in the background. It's wonderful, all these automatic ideas to take you through to make it more interesting. So the driver's seat was the state, the advice, the expression, and how to transmit. So I brought it down to a framework on how to pass your message. And I will come out of, I will stop sharing and come back to the live. So when you're selling a service or you're selling a solution, try to give the client, and we talked about this last week, is try to give them the visualization of where you're taking them, the unhappy to the happy, but there's that bridge that you're going to take them through, and you're going to show them the different steps. And that's what we call about chunking. So you try to bring things down to sub-solutions. If you're thinking of a presentation about a car, so you could talk about the technical side, the engine, you could be talking about the exterior and what it looks like, you can talk about the interior and how it feels like and the smells, and then you can talk about the power. Each time it's all of the same car, the same product, but you bring it down into smaller sections. So if I remind us where we've gone through how to make it memorable and impactful is you need to take things slowly. I'm going to repeat because the repetition is going to get it to come in. So we repeat and we repeat and we repeat. We try to bring it from another angle. We try to resume it, but we remember that we are giving the audience the time for it to sink in. The 7 points. If I come back to my slides, because I need to be remembered what I've said. My 7 points is knowing my audience. It's the structure of how I build ideas, visualization, a couple of charts, not too much. You can use charts or information for an impactful story. I remember a TEDx talk about a man who's created I don't know how to explain, a bottle where you can clean the water. So the dirty water with a pump, it would clean it. So for third world countries where the water was not good, you could drink from anywhere because your little pump would actually clean it through. Now, he was very impactful because he talked about how dirty water killed children and how many people were dying because of the lack of good sanitation. And he kept saying that during his whole speech. And by the way, folks, in the last 3 minutes, so many children have died from diarrhea and from typhoid. And you know, it was so impactful. You wanted to put the money down and help him with his water bottles because he was really touching your soul. So a little bit of information, impactful, the pause, the silence, the repetition. Using charts, but not too much. Reminding where you're going. Remembering that your story, if it's truthful and it comes across authentically, people are more open to you. And practice, practice, practice. Now, practice beforehand, before you're going to do your video. I know we had one lady with us who actually, she tried 19 times, and I think that's fantastic. And I congratulate her for the, how can I say, the resilience to continue, because I think after 3 I would have given up. But you need a little bit of spontaneity. So don't forget to be authentic. If you do things too often and you're just trying to get it right, trying to get it right, trying to get it right, you're going to forget that you've got to be natural as well. So it doesn't matter if there's some errors. It doesn't matter if you have a few problems. Somebody asked me a question about what happens if you have a technical problem. And yeah, we got loads of technique. We've got to remember, have I put it on this? Have I done that? Is it connecting? I always try to be mega prepared. So if I can, if I'm doing a presentation somewhere, I can go the day before and check all the electronics is working properly, then I will do. If I can't do it the day before, then I'm going to go early to my meeting. If it's going to start at 7:30 in the morning, I'll be there at 6:30 to check that everything's working. I will try to find out if there's a plan B. So if I'm taking my PC, I will always take my Kinetics. I've got a little, I like to show this, my unicorn. I have, it's a bit dirty now, but I have my unicorn with all my cables and my connections and everything I need to be able to connect. This is always, always, always in my business bag, so that I always have what I need, even the chargers for telephones and things, but I always have my connections because sometimes they want to use their PC. I'm a PC lady. I'm not a Mac, believe it or not, because I like the universe of PowerPoint and Microsoft. So I have a Microsoft Slate tablet, but I also have an Apple tablet because in some schools it's very easy to be able to share. So I have everything. So if I go to a training, I have my PC, I have my Apple, and I also have everything. All my slides are in the cloud. Because one day you can't connect. I was at a school the other day and the iPad just refused to connect with the mirroring, which is very, very simple. Just refused, just wouldn't work, it wouldn't work. So what did I do? Is I used my phone, because we can use your phone as well. So you get your phone and I go onto my cloud and found the file, then my phone, I could connect it, try to be reasonable and remove, you know, not have anything personal that's open, because suddenly you're using your phone and you get a message from somebody that comes in. So you have to make sure you turn that off. But hey, we're natural. Take it with a little bit of ease. I know one can panic. Oh my goodness, it's not working, and people can get frustrated. And that's why you really need to give yourself that time before to prepare, to be ready, make sure everything's connected. And then you have your 5 minutes breathing, your exercises, your power stance, your voice exercises, and you feel comfortable because everything's ready. I'm starting at 10, at 9 o'clock, I've checked that my camera's working, the cables are there, and everything's prepared, so that I don't get that nervousness of the last minute, because it's when you're not prepared that you get nervous. And yeah, shit happens, excuse my French, but yes, it will happen. There will be technical problems. Take it in your stride. Try to get people to integrate. If you're speaking to young generations, they're really good. So I always come into a room and I say to, if I got at one of those There's these classroom fantastic screens now, they're all interactive. I always ask one of the students, who knows how this works? I do, miss. It's like, well, you're going to be my technical assistant. Can you help me do this? So I get them involved in the presentation and they feel comfortable. Once upon a time, a long time ago, I was traveling and I was presenting fragrances, and I used to have a carousel of slides of diapositive, you know, the diapositive slides that you show, and they were in a carousel, and I'd put the carousel and it would click and it'd go 1, 2, 3. I found myself in Peru, and they didn't even have a machine for the slides. They had one of these old ones where you put the slide in, you'd push it, then you put the other one and you push it. I mean, I was in the Stone Age. Yes, it was a long time ago. So again, what do? You adapt. You say, okay, take out the slides, put 2 people, you get them to help you, and you laugh about it because there's nothing more you can do. There's always going to be a technical side, but preparation in advance will help you to avoid that uncomfortable situation. There are moments that you cannot afford to have those types of problems. There can be certain place in front of the big boss that you've got to have things really perfectly organized. So just be prepared, try to get there in advance and understand your technique, understand how your computer functions, how the screen is, and see if you can find out the day before what equipment they have and how they're going to connect. If they have their PC, do you send them your PowerPoint? That's difficult if you're somebody who likes to work late at night, the last minute. Try and see how you can get things so that you are fully prepared. So today I've come to the end of how I transmit. We've talked again on making it impactful and creating a memory, reminding people who you are, using some tricks of PowerPoint to present if you want to, try to avoid death by PowerPoint. I agree that only speaking is not easy. So when you're on a stage and you've got a screen behind you, that's always good to come and emphasize or explain something in general. The PowerPoint tricks of contrast. Don't use a white background, it hurts. And it also removes the attention from you, because if you've got something white in the background, they're not looking at you, they're looking at what's written on the screen. Obviously, reduce the text. Some people say PowerPoint bullets is good. Other people say stop using bullets. I like the idea of using frameworks where you've got little images. It's a lot more understandable. And I didn't say this, but in frameworks, you need more than 3 and you need less than 9. So usually a good framework is between 5 to 7. And if you're talking about, for example, marketing and you have 7 points, then obviously the bigger the framework, the more consistent is your project, and perhaps the higher you can sell it. If we're talking about selling a coaching program, you're selling a coaching program with 4 points, perhaps not the same thing if you're selling a program about 9. I have something called the Rebuild to Win, and there's 9 steps. And in fact, the 7th step is the driver speakers a vehicle. So you speak at the end, but there's 6 steps before that. So showing your journey for the client, showing the framework of how you're going to get them to learn, helps them to understand what is that you're offering and how they can visualize the solution that you're proposing. So there we have it. Today is the end of our 4-week course. We're going to have questions and answers on Thursday evening, because simply I'm going to go and see my daddy, and he's 87. He lives in London. He's on his own, and I haven't seen him since before Christmas, and my flight is at 10 o'clock. So I cannot be online and with you. So I've changed it to 7 o'clock in the evening. A lot of people have said they'd like that. And I've invited you all for a celebration moment the following week, next week on Wednesday, for a celebration of this course and to get some feedback and to see how you've enjoyed it and what you've learned, what you haven't, what I can improve. I've understood, somebody said to me that the videos of 1 hour is difficult to read and learn and do the exercises, that she would have preferred to have, you know, like smaller modules of 10 minutes, a couple of exercises, 10 minutes, a couple of exercises. So maybe I will be changing the format and putting it into shorter videos where you can do the homework differently. It's not been easy to have the interaction on Facebook. I find that we are all bombarded a lot with many groups, many things, and I haven't had the interaction on this group that I would have perhaps wanted, but I've had a lot of very interesting messages, and the people have been answering my survey, so that I thank them for. And so on that celebration evening, we will be doing the lottery or the draw to pull out the winner of who wins a one-on-one session with myself for participating and answering the 4 surveys. Do we have any questions? I'm going to look on the Facebook. Diane, do you have any questions?
Well, hello. I just want to give you my personal feedback. I think the course is very complex, and this structure of only 4 meetings is too small.
Too small.
Yes, and dividing the course in 10-minute slides, in 10-minute classes, it's like for preschoolers. I don't think that adults who want to evolve and learn about public speaking would have real difficulties with a 1-hour course.
Okay.
But you have a lot to offer, you have a lot to teach, and especially for people who have not taken before this course with you public speaking classes, I think they need more than 4 hours of interaction with you.
Okay. Do you think
I know that Sigrun has this format of 4 weeks course, but this is too large of a subject to offer it like this.
There is
it works for crocheting courses, for cooking classes, but for public speaking and for what you, Helen, have to offer as a teacher, I think you should extend this course.
Okay.
Have your own format and advertise more, because you really have a lot of value in your course, but you didn't reach to enough people who would be interested in your course. Okay. And maybe you should not stop with this just one-time free course. Maybe start over and advertise more, so that you get to be known online more, not just inside this small group of that Sigrun has.
Okay. Well,
you would have deserved a lot of more interaction, but you are not the network that only Sigrun's network was used, I think, for advertising your course.
I definitely agree that I did not advertise enough. I changed my course after 1 week because I had one different course, and I realized that I wasn't how can I say, my client segment or my ideal client hadn't been clearly identified. And so I changed to go to a speaking class. And so then that's where I was rushing to get people onto the course. So I agree that I've learned a lot on Sigrun's marketing and how to go about it. I'm not convinced either on the 4 weeks. I've already got a platform.
It doesn't go to everything. In small subjects like crocheting or pottery, introduction in pottery, but public speaking, and again, I remember because I was a member of that group, and just pretending that if you, on a scale from 1 to 10, you score 2 or 3 points, then you can coach people who only score 1 point. But in my opinion, you are very high in this I think you maybe score 9 to 10 points. So you are able to coach people who score more than 1 or 2 points in this scale of skills for public speaking.
Well, I do coaching one-to-one, and I do a lot in public and in classrooms. This is the first time to do this on a machine with the camera, and I'm looking at you and I'm not looking at the camera, but it's a learning curve. But I do enjoy the public. I enjoy having the public and getting them to participate. So when you're speaking on your own to a camera, I'm not disconcerted because I give everything
in front of a camera only, and with no active audience.
Yeah. So
it's advertise more the course. This is my personal opinion. Advertise more, a lot more, like even for 2 months before you start the course. Offer it in a longer format. Maybe not for free at first, but you have a lot to offer. I joined 3 courses from this platform from Sigrun's school, and yours is the most valuable. You are the best coach from these 3. I couldn't join more. You have a great format, you have a great appearance, and you really deserve a lot of audience. Okay. Online audience.
All right. Well, I hear you, and thank you for that feedback. We have our celebration next week, and you filled out the form, so hopefully we'll see who comes.
I will try to fill out all the forms, but I wanted to offer you a live feedback, because I really think you deserve it, and maybe the others could not gather the time to join you in all the classes. I tried. And I would be really interested in taking a longer course with you, not a 4-week course.
Okay. All right.
Like a 3 months course. Because it's a large and important subject. You cannot teach public speaking and public presentations to everyone in 4 classes, in 4 weeks.
No, there's a lot of people that want the technical side. How do you do this with, PowerPoint? How do you do this? How do you present? How do you send emails? Or there's all the technical side, but it's the practice. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to see people getting up. And when I'm doing it live, I always get, my students to stand up. We film them, and then we give feedback on how they were physically and how they were talking. And it's only by standing up and doing the speech where you start to evolve. And so I agree that I need to find a way to get more interaction and definitely more people on the course. So thank you very much.
To this platform in getting reach. And I also think that if you want to keep even shorter courses like these 4 weeks, then maybe you should offer not just one signature course, but to structure them in introductory courses, shorter and advanced courses, because you have the value inside you. It's obvious. You have a lot to offer, but you need the right
audience.
Students, yes.
Yeah, but I agree that I'm actually very good at giving the information, but I haven't applied it to myself in better defining the client and better defining the content of the course. So I'm very pleased with what I've done, but I feel that there are many things that can be improved, and I'm excited to see how I can shape this for the future. So thank you for your feedback, Diane. Thank you for your course.
I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.